Truk Lagoon, a quiet group of islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Life is simpler here. While changes have come to these islands, there are still things that make living here tranquil and beautiful. Yet if you look closely, you can see remnants from a time when life was anything but peaceful. 50 years ago, these islands played an important role in the most destructive war the world has ever known. During World War II, Truk was the main naval base for the Japanese Imperial Navy. The Japanese Pearl Harbor. At its height in 1943, Truk Lagoon held the combined fleet under the command of Admiral Ishiroku Yamamoto. Besides warships and merchant freighters, there were thousands of military personnel, 4 airstrips with hundreds of planes, fuel and munition storage. From Truk, the Japanese launched many early offensives in the Pacific War: New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, and the Bismarck Sea. From Truk came the air and naval support for the Japanese defense of its possessions in the Western Pacific. Called the Gibraltar of the Pacific, Truk was Japan's mightiest naval base outside the homeland. But Truk's real strength lay in her natural fortifications. The fleet anchorage was protected by coral reef 140 miles in circumference, with only 4 navigable passes, making it impossible to bring naval guns to bear on the islands. Japan acquired the Truk Islands at the outbreak of World War I when it seized Micronesia from Germany. Japan's interests in the area stem from the early 1890s when Japanese traders, former samurai and their sons, opened small trading outposts in Truk. During the 1920s and 30s, the Japanese administration built up a major fishing industry, establishing a cannery and processing plant on Dublin. With this economic development came large numbers of immigrant laborers from Japan and Okinawa. From the outset, Japan had sealed off the islands to foreign visitors. Then, in 1931, Japan attacked Manchuria. And in 1932, the invasion of China. As Western powers openly criticized Japan's aggression in Asia, Japan drifted ever closer to war with the United States. By 1939, with the war in China and Manchuria at full tilt, and Japan now withdrawn from the League of Nations, the decision was made to fortify its island possessions. Then, in 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The war with the U.S. had begun. Truk was already an established naval base. For the next 2 years, it remained the main advance base for the Japanese offensive. But by the summer of 1943, the tide of the war was turning against Japan. The Allies were beginning to move north through the Solomon Islands, and an even larger Allied force was advancing westward across the Pacific. The Allies took Tarawa, and then Kwajalein. The next target was the heart of Japan's possessions, Truk. American reconnaissance photos in early 1944 showed more than 60 ships and major shore installations in Truk. Alerted, the warships escaped to Palau, but the merchant support fleet remained. The U.S. had to neutralize this mighty Japanese base, but without a costly amphibious assault. Truk would be attacked from the air. On February 16, 1944, the attack began. The first objective was to eliminate enemy planes. Next, they concentrate on the airstrips. With the Japanese air power destroyed, American pilots now attack the ships which lie helpless in the lagoon. In the two-day attack, American planes destroyed 200,000 tons of shipping, over 30 vessels, and more than 200 planes and thousands of tons of fuel. The raid on Truk had been successful. The price the U.S. had paid for success was surprisingly small. 17 aircraft lost and 40 men killed in action. In addition, the carrier Intrepid was disabled and had to be towed back to the U.S. for repairs. Truk would not be invaded. It did not have to be. It was neutralized. To prevent Truk from regaining strength, the U.S. carriers returned in April, this time concentrating on land targets. Fuel and ammunition were hard hit, and 400 buildings were destroyed. For 7 months, B-24s and B-29s flew bombing missions to Truk to keep the Japanese from rebuilding. There was nothing left. No ships, No planes, no supplies. Truk had been destroyed. Over 7,000 tons of bombs were dropped on Truk, and the Gibraltar of the Pacific was no more. Today, the remnants of this battle still remain, encased in the Truk Lagoon. Today, the Truk Lagoon offers the finest collection of World War II shipwrecks found anywhere in the world. There are more than 40 ships contained in her clear, warm waters. The ships have become beautiful artificial reefs, sanctuaries for fish and other marine life. The years have transformed the ships into a historic time capsule, an underwater museum. The Fujikawa Maru is a 434-foot, 6,900-ton aircraft transport. She was torpedoed and brought to Truk for repairs. During the attack in February 1944, bombs tore open her temporary hull patch and she sank. Swimming down the mast, the Fujikawa Maru is an experience that one never forgets. Of all the ships sunk here, the Fujikawa best represents Truk Lagoon. We begin our tour at the bow, swimming past her 6-inch bow gun, made in 1899. The Fujikawa has 3 forward holds. Entering them, one steps back into history and can examine different kinds of military apparatus. Japanese Zeros, the most famous fighter plane of World War II, rest here. Tail section, a cockpit with joystick and gauges intact. The classic Zero folding wing for carrier transport. 7.7 millimeter machine guns, an outboard motor, an empty shell casing, a Zero propeller, drums that once held aviation fuel. Leaving the forward holds, we proceed to the bridge. Inside we find several objects: a fan, ship owner's china, electrical parts. Divers can examine the bath area, officer's sinks, soaking tub, captain's sink, and his stool for bathing. While some items remain intact, others have fallen with time. With care and planning, a diver may proceed deeper into the ship and explore the engine room. The Fujikawa was powered by a single 840 horsepower diesel. An unturned wheel, a powerless electric outlet. There's a machine shop aboard where men once stood. A workbench with vise and an open drawer. Metal was turned on this lathe, driven by large electric motors. A dark and mute reminder of men at war. Exiting, we return to light and living things. Schools of beautiful fish often frequent this vessel. We've just left her bridge area and are proceeding to the stern king post. The aft section of the Fujikawa has 3 holds. Smaller and more personal items are found here, and we begin to get a view of life aboard ship, her men, and her cargo. A cooking pot for rice with dishes and bottles inside. Mess kits are found in various stages of decay. A lone light fixture hangs from the ceiling. There are hundreds of beer bottles from the Dai Nippon Brewery, destined for soldiers and sailors in faraway outposts to provide a few minutes of escape from the war. Valves. Some can still be turned. Ascending between the girders, we encounter clownfish and anemones. We now proceed to the stern deck area. The 6-inch stern gun marks the end of our tour of the aircraft transport Fujikawa Maru, a magnificent vessel, a historic monument in its own right, a ship that offers war artifacts, corals, exciting marine life, and a message for peace. The Saki-san Maru, which means mountain dragon, was a transport ship with a cargo of munitions. She sits upright in 90 to 120 feet of water. As soon as you enter the water, the mast of the Saki-san draws you to her. It's a kaleidoscope of color and marine growth. It's as though a gardener went about planting beautiful life on her. All share this small but prolific living space. At 40 feet, we begin swimming from her bow toward her stern. The forward deck has leather coral and other marine growth. Several badly deteriorated trucks and truck parts are visible on both the port and starboard decks. Angelfish are often seen here. A large moray eel makes its home in the ship's wreckage. The Saki-san was severely damaged in the attack, and her munitions exploded, sinking her and reducing her stern to a massive wreckage. We now descend into her hold. Her main attraction, a hold containing thousands of bullets, an item often sought by divers wanting to steal souvenirs. Rope. Badly damaged trucks. One with a recognizable dashboard. The Saki-san, a nice combination of artifacts and natural beauty. The I-169, or Shinohara, the Japanese I-class submarine, was the finest submarine of its time. She was 336 feet long, with a 14,000-mile range at 10 knots. Today, she rests in 110 feet to 140 feet of water. For the diver, the sense of history is overwhelming. During the April attack, she submerged to avoid the U.S. airstrike. A valve was left open in the conning tower, completely flooding the control room, and she could not surface. Attempts to raise her proved futile. 32 bodies were recovered, and to prevent her from falling into U.S. hands, the Japanese depth charged her, completely destroying the forward section. The Heian Maru was a submarine tender and provided support to the I-169 and other submarines. She was over 500 feet long and weighed more than 11,000 tons. On February 14th, the Heian Maru became the flagship of the 6th Submarine Fleet. 3 days later, she was sunk. The Heian Maru is a massive vessel, the largest in the lagoon, and one feels small in her presence. Her name, which means City of Peace, can be clearly seen on the forward section of the ship. Her superstructure is huge and is filled with a maze of corridors. Cargo holds contain supplies to outfit submarines, periscopes, torpedoes, and torpedo warheads. The Heian Maru. To visit her is a humbling experience. Today, the Truk Lagoon is a mecca for dive enthusiasts. The shipwrecks of Truk are acknowledged to be the best wreck diving anywhere, and divers come from all parts of the globe to explore her shipwrecks. But the ships are not indestructible. Steel rusts. Wood rots. Artifacts decay. The effects of time can be seen on many of the ships. The anchor chain of the Saki-san that hung sturdily for more than 45 years finally fell in May 1989. The smokestack at the Rio de Janeiro also decayed. In November 1989, major parts of the gunboat collapsed. The Fujikawa's smokestack, once covered with coral, has crumbled. And in the Saki-san, parts have fallen off the trucks. Marine life on the ships also changes with time. Coral grows, dies, and is reborn. This anemone, housed in a tire on the Saki-san for more than 15 years, has disappeared. Natural disasters hasten the process of change. In 1987, the wave action from Typhoon Nina destroyed tons of coral within the lagoon, tossing it onto the shallow reefs. The bridge of the Saki-san, already twisted in the bombing that sank the ship, collapsed during the typhoon. The typhoon's force broke through a bulkhead, breaking boxes and scattering bullets throughout the first hold. The bridge of the Fujikawa was stripped of its coral growth, and the ship's superstructure was smashed. Not much can be done about this. The sea is the resting place of the ships, and the sea, like any tomb, disfigures. But not all the destructive changes are natural.
Unfortunately, man is having a significant negative impact on the ships. There's damage occurring to the ships and to the artifacts on them.
Rick Foss served as chief prosecutor for the national government and has made hundreds of dives in Truk. Careless or inexperienced divers and photographers can easily cause damage to the wrecks. Take anchors, for example. Anchoring on a ship can rub and break off delicate corals that will take years to regrow. Sometimes anchors do much more than this. The Fumutsuki destroyer is a dramatic example.
This destroyer was in pristine condition, and I had the thrill of diving it within a week after it had been discovered. It really impressed me because I was looking at untouched history. I was looking at a battle vessel that was just exactly the way it was when it went down almost 45 years before.
Less than 6 months later, the bridge of the Fumutsuki was reduced to rubble when a heavy anchor was dropped on it.
I think that the destruction of the Fumutsuki's bridge is probably man's worst single moment in Truk in terms of the damage done to the wrecks since the war.
Divers kick or cling to coral and break off pieces. The very bubbles that divers exhale create air pockets that hasten the rusting of the ships. One diver's actions may appear insignificant, but as more divers visit a site, the combined effects can be overwhelming. The undersea world is a strange and delicate place. One cannot be there without changing the environment in some way.
There is a great difference between when I started working and now. Many things have broken on the ships. Many artifacts are not on the ships.
The biggest problem by far is theft from the ships.
On the Fuji, in the beginning it was beautiful and had everything on it. Now it is not as beautiful and there are not many things on it.
Tanimoto Tepegas has been a dive guide in the Truk Lagoon for 8 years. He has made thousands of dives on the wrecks.
I dove on the Sankisan and there were other divers there. I saw them taking bullets and other things and putting them in their bag. I took the things from the lady and took her bag and emptied it.
One diver recounts his experience while diving the Truk Lagoon. When the dive guides came out of the wreck, they had their arms filled with chinaware. Upon surfacing, I battled one of them to return the dishes. He claimed they were on their way to a museum.
There is organized pilferage going on in Truk. And this is local people, as well as other individuals that come from outside with the specific purpose of taking articles.
One of the major items stolen from the shipwrecks are munitions, mines, shells, explosives of all kinds. These are used to make homemade bombs to dynamite fish. Michiosi Rudolph, a dive guide for 12 years, has more than 4,000 dives on the wrecks.
Dynamiters take things from the ships like the Fuji and Nippo. The Fujikawa had 6-inch shells in the first hold. Today they are gone. This year on the Nippo there were several hundred mines. Now there are fewer.
A visiting diver describes what he recently saw while diving the wrecks.
And I looked into the boat, and here in the boat was at least 15 to 20 ack shells, about that long, and one huge landmine, which must have stood about that high. It was domed with a hook on the top of it and round. And they were very rusty and wet, so it was obvious that they just dived with the scuba gear onto a wreck and pulled it up for the night.
They take the powder inside and they make their own dynamite out of it, and they go out on the reef or whatever and dynamite the fish with.
This is a dynamite charge made with gunpowder from munitions. Although using dynamite to kill fish is illegal, it is frequently practiced in Truk.
When I returned to the Fuji, it was very silty because they dynamited the ship. Many corals fell and the smokestack and mast were damaged.
The effects can be seen on the bulkhead of the Fujikawa. The forward mast has been stripped of coral. Weakened by dynamite explosives, this mass fell 2 months later. Less destructive but equally offensive are intentional acts by divers that distract from the beauty of the ships. Often items of historical importance are moved by divers so they can see or photograph them better. On the Shinkoku, numerous artifacts have been thrown together, creating a veritable junkyard. This memento was left tied to the Gosei Maru by divers wanting to be remembered. Attempts have been made to preserve these sites. In 1971, a law was passed declaring the ships a historic monument and making it unlawful to remove or damage the ships and their contents. A sign has been posted at the main tourist dock warning divers that removing things is illegal, and a security guard checks divers' bags upon returning. But this hasn't solved the problem.
When we return to the dock, there are some guards that check tourists' dive bags. There are artifacts that have been found in the tourists' dive bags, but they don't call the police. They don't report it.
From the time the law was passed until today, I have never seen a government boat, marine resources, or police ever check.
Mr. Watts went to the authorities to report the incident he witnessed.
I reported it to the police. They took full report on it, and I said that I could identify the people. I could identify where the scuba gear came from, but nothing was done.
But what can be done? There are no simple answers. There needs to be increased awareness that the shipwrecks in the Truk Lagoon are worth preserving.
No wish for what I wish my government leaders and my friends in the dive business and the tourists coming to the lagoon would obey and strengthen the laws and take nothing from the ships.
I view damage to the ships in Truk like I would view damage to the USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor, or the Verdun battlefield in France, or the Gettysburg battlefield in the United States. I view damage to these areas of historic reference as unforgivable.
Every time somebody takes a shell or a plate out of the kitchen or something like that, that's it, it's gone. It never comes back, it can never be recreated again. So they need to protect their treasures, and they are treasures, and they need to be protected.